Daniel Foster adjusted his daughter's backpack before they entered the Grand Crescent Hotel. "Nervous?" he asked. 8-year-old Sophie smiled. "A little. You'll do great." The hotel's ballroom was decorated with colorful banners for the city's annual Children's Innovation Awards, honoring young students who had created projects to improve their communities. Sophie's invention, a simple water-saving device for school sinks, had earned her a place among the finalists. Daniel couldn't have been prouder. Being a single father hadn't been easy. After losing his wife to illness 6 years earlier, every day became a careful balance between raising Sophie and running his small engineering business. Some mornings started before sunrise. Breakfast, school lunches, homework, client meetings, soccer practice, bedtime stories. Daniel handled everything himself. He never complained, because every smile from Sophie reminded him why he kept going. Inside the ballroom, families gathered around decorated tables while photographers captured excited children showing off their inventions. Daniel looked around for their assigned seats. A volunteer smiled warmly. "Mr. Foster, yes, you're seated at table 3. She glanced toward Sophie. "And congratulations to your daughter." "Thank you." When they reached the table, Daniel noticed only one other guest had arrived. A graceful woman in a navy business suit reviewed notes on a tablet while occasionally smiling at the young girl sitting beside her. The little girl looked about Sophie's age. She wore leg braces but chatted happily with her mother. The woman looked up and smiled politely. "You must be Daniel. I believe we're sharing the table." Daniel nodded. "Looks that way. I'm Victoria Hayes." Daniel. Before either Daniel or Victoria could explain, Sophie reached for both of their hands. "We're not really a family." She paused with a mischievous smile. "But we're friends." The nurse laughed. "Well, you certainly look like one." Victoria glanced at Daniel. For a brief second, neither of them corrected the misunderstanding. Not because they wanted to deceive anyone, but because Sophie looked happier than she had all morning. The nurse smiled and walked away. Daniel chuckled awkwardly. "I guess we should have explained." Victoria looked at Sophie, who was happily showing another child how to color a dinosaur. "Maybe, but I don't think anyone was hurt by a little kindness." Over the next few weeks, Saturday mornings developed into an unexpected tradition. Daniel brought Sophie for volunteer activities between her follow-up appointments. Victoria continued visiting the pediatric ward to deliver books, puzzles, and art supplies. Soon, the three of them found themselves spending several hours together every weekend. Sophie looked forward to those Saturdays more than anything else. One morning she asked, "Miss Victoria." "Yes, why do you come here every week?" Victoria became quiet. She looked toward a window overlooking the hospital garden. "My little brother spent a long time here. He was very brave. When he passed away, I promised I'd help children who were still fighting." Sophie gently hugged her. "I'm sorry." Victoria smiled through tears. "Thank you." Daniel watched the moment silently. He understood grief. He recognized the quiet strength it took to carry love after loss. One rainy afternoon, the hospital organized a family picnic inside the Children's Recreation Center. Games, music, face painting, and magic shows filled the large room with laughter. Parents sat together while children played. As Daniel helped Sophie decorate cookies, a volunteer approached. "Mr. Carter." "Yes, we're taking family photos for the hospital newsletter. Would you and your wife stand over here?" Daniel immediately began to explain. "Oh, actually." Before he finished, Sophie looked up hopefully. Victoria noticed. She smiled gently. "It's all right, for one picture." Daniel hesitated, then nodded. The photographer positioned them together. Sophie stood between them, holding both of their hands. Everyone smiled. The flash captured a simple moment. Nothing staged, nothing romantic, just three people who genuinely cared about one another. The photograph later appeared in the hospital newsletter under the caption, "Kindness creates family." Neither Daniel nor Victoria asked for it to be changed. Months passed. Their friendship grew naturally. Victoria admired Daniel's patience, humility, and unwavering devotion to Sophie. Daniel admired Victoria's compassion and the fact that she never sought recognition for the millions she quietly donated to children in need. One evening, Daniel received an unexpected phone call. Sophie had been selected for a specialized rehabilitation program, but several sessions would take place while he was required to attend an important certification course for work. He worried about how to manage both. The next morning, Victoria simply said, "I'll take her." Daniel looked surprised. "You don't have to." "I know. I want to." For the next 2 weeks, Victoria drove Sophie to every appointment. She sat beside her during therapy, read stories while waiting, celebrated every milestone. When Daniel completed his course, Sophie excitedly ran into his arms. "Daddy, I did all my exercises." "I know." Miss Victoria cheered louder than anyone. Victoria laughed. "I might have embarrassed a few therapists." Years later, Sophie graduated from high school as valedictorian. During her speech, she looked toward the front row where Daniel and Victoria sat beside each other. People who didn't know them still assumed they were a married couple. This time, neither of them seemed to mind. Sophie smiled. "When I was little, people often thought these two were my parents together." The audience laughed. They weren't. They were something even more important. They were two people who chose kindness every single day. She looked at Daniel. "My dad taught me what unconditional love looks like." Then she looked at Victoria. "And she taught me that family isn't defined only by blood. It's also built by showing up." The audience stood in applause. After the ceremony, a reporter asked Victoria, "Why didn't you correct people all those years ago when they assumed you and Daniel were a couple?" Victoria smiled warmly. "Because every time someone said it, I saw a little girl feel safe. And sometimes giving a child one happy moment is more important than correcting a stranger." Daniel smiled beside her. Life had brought them together through coincidence. Respect had turned strangers into friends. Friendship had become trust, and trust had become a family of choice. People remembered the story because strangers mistook a CEO and a single dad for a couple, and she never corrected them. But those who knew the whole story understood that the real message wasn't about romance. It was about two compassionate adults who put a child's happiness before appearances, proving that the strongest families are often formed not by labels, but by love, loyalty, and the quiet decision to be there when someone needs you most.